I've for Mona and Nancy, who I don't know how much of my past you know, but I've been down to Latin America quite a bit, and I've spent a lot of time in Cusco and in the Andes and in the Amazon jungle, and I've uh, been really blessed to spend time with a lot of the high isolated mountain and Amazon villages where people still practice the old ways of the Incas. And in the time of the Incas, PachaMama was one of the gods of their pantheon. And I should put out front in the beginning, I have no problem with the Christian God or Christ. I talk to them. I think they talk to me. We're good. I think gods of other pantheons exist. I think the Christian God and Christ are much more open-minded and open-hearted than it says in the, and not jealous gods, as it says in the Bible. And I think that these other gods and goddesses run the whole gamut of being good or being bad. And you need discretion. Now, PachaMama is a great one to start with because she's the feminine. She's the mother. She's the earth mother. She's the nurturer. She's a protector. She brings fertility. In the Inca times, when the Incas expanded the empire, the requirement was, whether it was by conquest or by, wait 1 second, there's an email. Okay. They would require that the new region and villages would put into the sun god and PachaMama, the moon goddess, highest in their temples. They were good with them putting their other gods and goddesses, and there was a large pantheon, but it wasn't a requirement. PachaMama wasn't a requirement, and from talking to the people in the high mountains in the Amazon and doing the readings of the first people who talked to conquistadors from the Inca, then Inca, now Quechuan people, they didn't. PachaMama was always part of their lives. They walked on the earth. They tilled the soil. They herded their llama herds. They depended on the water from the rivers and streams. It was all a holy place. So she didn't have to be put high in the temples. But as the years have gone by, especially recent decades, PachaMama has taken on much more importance. Following my wife Sophia's mythologies of the Scandinavian gods and goddesses, Thor and Odin have done a similar thing. They've become important in the modern day world, and PachaMama has eclipsed Inti and PachaMama. Welcome, new guest, and thank you for joining us. I've started, and we'll go from there, and you can ask questions if you'd like. There are many environmental groups in Latin America and in the States who have taken on the name of PachaMama as their emblem, because she is the earth, and because she gives nurturing, she gives protection, but she needs nurturing now, and she needs protection. There are many ways to contact, I think, many gods and goddesses, and we just have to be open to them. They won't, in most cases, do more than you ask or request of them, but they will do quite a bit. Now, along the lines of what I said earlier about believing in many pantheons and many gods and goddesses, I could be delusional. Some people think I am, but if I am, I've had a very blessed life, and I really think the gods and goddesses, and especially the Incan gods and goddesses, have done a great deal to help me with that. I adopted two amazing babies from Peru during the Civil War, and they're now my two best friends, and doing extremely well in the world at 30 and 31. Or is it 31 and 32 now? I have a most amazing wife, and I really think PachaMama. Yes.
I just wanted to say that recently I had the message to strengthen my relationship with the earth.
Perfect. This is the
right. And I thought, really? It can get stronger?
This is the right seminar. That's why I put this one together.
Yeah. So I think you're timely in terms of this being, the middle of August, and we've been through so much change, and we're in that 5th season of late summer where everything comes into fruition. Our gardens are producing everything, and we are reaching our peak for this year, but we need to ground that, I think, to the earth.
And August is a month, right? August is the month in the Andes and the Amazon. They have the reverse seasons as us.
Right.
So this is our late summer, and it's their very early spring, where planting will take. And this is when a lot of the festivals to PachaMama were. They would cook all night because the nights were short, and they didn't want them to end.
I'm looking for the goddess to show up in my kitchen who cooks.
Call her in.
Especially dinner.
My father was an amateur chef, and Sophia was asking me questions about him one night when I was cooking supper, and I swear, he came in and I cooked the best meal I've cooked in a long time.
I need him.
And it's doable. It's really doable. I really, to call in the goddess of, look her up on the internet, but there's a goddess, I'm sure, in one pantheon or another, of cooking and preparing food. The Peruvian people are just wonderful, the Latin American people, but the Peruvian people are just wonderful in that way. I've said it before, if you go to the marketplace and you buy something from someone 3 days in a row, and then you ask them, what's that, and how do you prepare it, and they offer to come to your house and to cook it for you, and they tell you stories until early in the morning.
I need that person.
They're there. I've had it happen in Cusco many times.
No, they're not supposed to see me.
Also, with what you're saying about being open to many different gods, I don't consider that a problem.
No, I didn't think you would. But I know a lot of people.
And we latch on to what we need at different times.
Exactly.
And it's a continuum of opening and growth. And there's many roads to enlightenment. And I think the more you travel, the more full your experience can be.
Two stories I like to tell about PachaMama is that one of them is I actually was honored to be friends with a woman who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and she and I would talk quite often on the phone for a year or so, and one time she wrote a book on, after we were communicating, she wrote a book on the Virgin Mary, Mother Mary, and she's very connected to the Mother Mary, and she said to me, I'm not real comfortable with you praying to PachaMama. And I said, I kind of think they're aspects of the same thing. And Dr. Estes is a very open-minded person, and she said, if I remember right, she said, I'll have to think about that. but she was willing to contemplate that they were. And I think it's okay if people, well, another story is I had this friend in Cusco who was had a doctorate degree. She was a Quechuan Indian grown in one of the villages, and her father had a little store, and he sent his children to college. And she ended up getting a doctorate degree and running a museum in Cusco. And she was flown in to Washington, D.C. to set up the Andean display at the Native American Museum. And I was interviewing her, and I said, well, the Latin American people say they're Catholic, but I can go just 30 miles from Cusco, and there's traditional Incan ceremonies being done in churches where they're praying to Inti and PachaMama and PachaMama. Who do you pray to? She looked at me and she said, does it matter? Does it matter if I pray to Mother Mary or PachaMama? I say my prayers and I send them off, and they go where they'll be listened to and where they'll do good. So many people have discretion. Another story I like to tell is Larry Dorsey is a famous author, and he did an experiment where he had people in hospitals, and he had, I don't know, 8 people, and he had one person praying to their Christian God for this person to heal, and another person praying to their Hindu gods for this person to heal, and down the line, many religions, and this person praying to a chair for his person to heal, and this person not being prayed for. Well, the person who wasn't prayed for didn't get much better, but the other ones, they all got equally better. And even the one that the chair was being prayed to. So there's a lot of power in prayer. Does it matter who you pray to? Yeah, probably. To what degree has to do with your connection to them, and your earnestness in your prayer. PachaMama has helped me many times. One time, and she'll come to you. She'll whisper in your ear. She'll come when you call. A good time is as with much magical work, is before you're falling asleep at night or early in the morning when you're just waking up. But it's easiest for astral beings, especially gods and goddesses, to come in there. One time I was walking on the edge of Cusco and a rather run-down section. As you get higher up, they get more run-down. And there was a deserted building, so I went in. And I assume, one never knows with magic and spiritual occurrences, but I assume I saw her with my third eye or my astral sight. But out of the rubble, the debris, rose this beautiful woman made of stones and leaves and sticks that had blown into the deserted building. And she looked at me, I'll never forget it. And she said, "Michael, we haven't left you. We made an agreement with you years before when you were here, that you were going to help bring us our information that was lost when the Spanish came back to the world. And you don't have to be working with us all the time. Your connection is there. You love nature, and I am nature. So always know I'm with you." And then she melted back into the pile of debris.
Woo! Oh, that's nice.
It was amazing. I was like, I didn't make that up. That happened. And that's how magical it is. It really can come to us. One of the exercises that is very Incan, passed down like many of them, and still used in the higher mountain villages, it's amazing. I was able to go to some of the isolated villages that were closed off all winter because the mud was so deep you couldn't drive a Range Rover through it, a four-wheel drive, and the horses and mules couldn't get through it, or llamas. So we'd go up until the rainy season, and I worked with what was then called the Cusco Weaving Cooperative, and each village had different names for their gods and goddesses, and different kinds of weaving, different style of weaving. And this cooperative would go in and find the grandmothers who had been taught the weaving of the village from their grandmothers. And they would pay them to teach their grandchildren. And then they would come back and buy the best weavings and either put them in museums or sell them to tourists and bring back the money to the village. So I got to see these isolated villages and talk to some of the elders and some of the wise people of the villages. And PachaMama was always with them. In August, at the end of August, many of them plant a small llama made of rock, carved of rock, a soft rock, with a hollow in the middle. And it's either filled with coca leaves or corn or potato and buried deep in the ground under their fields as an offering to PachaMama, that she'll bring fertility to their crops and to their herds. When a couple decides to get together and raise a family, the village comes together and builds them a house to celebrate their union. And they pray to the Apus, and we'll talk about the Apus towards the end of this talk, but they call on the different gods and goddesses for different aspects of energy. But before they laid the foundation, before they broke the earth, they would pray to PachaMama to bring them protection, fertility, love, nurturing. And she was believed to be the one that brought this in. Now, the exercise we're going to do is fairly simple, and I've used it a number of times with people. And I learned it down there in one of the villages. And it's just calling in the entities, an entity or the entities, it's a kind of possession, but it's not possession. It's not voodoo, and it's not Seda, which my wife has learned and taught me in Norway and in Sweden. But it's a light possession. It's a kind of connection with a goddess or god energy. It's bringing in their aspects. Anytime anyone's uncomfortable with it, you just open your eyes. You can get up and walk around the room and come back when I'm just talking, because I do a lot of talking. But we'll do this exercise, and I'll give you a minute and a half, 2 minutes to talk to PachaMama, and that'll be something where you can go back and practice after we've done, or revisit her another time. And what we do, like most meditations, is we sit comfortably and relax. And then 3 deep breaths. Now we feel our feet. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your toes, bottom of your foot, your heel, because these connect you to the earth. Even through a tenement apartment, there's lines that go from your feet to the earth, and you're connected to the earth here. Feel your feet start to tingle as you call in PachaMama. And call her name 3 times to yourself. PachaMama, come to us. PachaMama, come to us. PachaMama, come to us. And then a small prayer. Bring us a feeling, a message from knowing and experience. Bless us, nurture us, protect us. You can feel this tingling going up your calves. And the earth energy, the PachaMama energy, is coming into you. She comes to your knees, which is very special, because her knees, our knees are very vulnerable. And PachaMama can heal those, and she can make them strong. And she can do this all through your body as her energy rises. And she rises now to your thighs, make you strong, fill you with earth energy, with growth energy, with the energy of fall harvest and bring new growth. And then she comes to your loins. PachaMama is very sensual. She's very lusty. She's earth. She's the deer in the spring. She's the rabbits in the spring. And you feel this rock energy tingling up into your stomach and your solar plexus. Solar plexus is our center of power. It's where a lot of us give away our power. It's where a lot of us get nauseous or get stomach aches. But it's a true magic worker's power source. PachaMama can make this rock solid for you, earthy, healthy. Many sorcerers claim that they grow vines in that solar plexus. And some I've seen kind of float across a field or a valley, and they claim they're using the vines, sort of Tarzan-like, visible vines to pull themselves across. We're not going to do that tonight, but that's how far it can go. And if you feel the vines growing in your solar plexus, you'll feel the essence of PachaMama. And then she comes up to your chest and your heart center. And here, well, I always pray that I lead from my heart, I live from my heart, I think first with my heart. For love and heart, really, the Quechuan people of today, the descendants of the Inca, have something like 40 words for love. PachaMama is very heart-centered. And to have new growth, earth energy in your heart is wondrous. It then comes up to your throat, and the energy goes down your arms. Fingers tingle with earth energy. Your throat is how you communicate. And nature communicates in so many beautiful ways. In the morning here, where we live, you can hear the birds singing. And I've heard it said in Peru that the birds sing in the morning because once all creatures that woke up sang in the morning with joy of a new day, and the birds are the only ones that truly remember. PachaMama brings us the joy of communication. And nature communicates in so many ununderstandable ways, just on the edge of our perception. A shamanic knowing that's beyond words. Then our energy comes up through our nose and through our third eye. Nature is telepathy. Nature is knowing the unknowable. Nature is empathy and being an empath. PachaMama is all those things that can enhance the meaning. And then PachaMama energy, the solid earth energy, the new growth energy, comes to our 1,000-petaled lotus and overflows like an endless waterfall into our auras. We're surrounded with PachaMama energy and earth energy. I did a videotape on the Echo World YouTube channel about auras, so I won't go into them too deep now. If anyone wants to check that out, feel free. But our aura is so powerful and has so much to offer us. And it's now filled all of our auras with PachaMama energy. And now we pray, PachaMama, speak to us. PachaMama, speak to us. PachaMama, be with us. Give us your messages. Give us your feelings. Give us an experience. And now, yes, even I can be quiet. And I will for about a minute and a half, while you each have a conversation with PachaMama. Now slowly give PachaMama your thanks. If you wish, tell her you'd like to revisit with her again. Come back into your body. Make your body your own. You can tell PachaMama she can stay if you're comfortable with that, or you can wish her goodbye and farewell. You can stay to the degree you're comfortable and she's comfortable. And then we return. And exercises like this can be done anytime with any entities, elementals, beings. They can be done in that fashion or modifications of that. And they're very effective. PachaMama wants... Yeah.
The prayer of protection first.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's always good to be protected. It's always good to set the heavens, I call it, that no negative forces come into it. Only forces that mean us well are welcomed. Before I do a webinar, a lecture, a workshop, I pray to the gods and goddesses, in this case, PachaMama and the Apus, to bring through me the words that the people that come need to hear. I recorded one practicing for an hour this morning, And now that we're doing this, and this is one's turning out so differently, I might end up putting them both on the YouTube channel just so you can, anyone who wants to get the second dose can look at that. But PachaMama is really important because she's the feminine. They say that as the world has more female leaders, it will become more nurturing, more sensitive, more caring, less competitive, less harsh. I like to tell this story that I grew up with 3 sisters and a very nurturing mother, and I thought I had my relationship between male and female pretty together. And then in my 20s, I moved to San Francisco and got a lot of gay friends and into the new age, and really decided I was going to balance my male and female energy, because I think that's important for us all to do. And after years of working on it, I was pretty sure I was a balanced male who was in touch with his female side. And then 8 years ago, I met my wife on a bus going from Cusco to Puno. And my son was born in Puno, and I was going to Lake Titicaca, and I planned to travel in Latin America for 6 months. And Sophia was there on vacation. And after a 5-hour drive from Cusco to Puno of talking nonstop, we were in love. But we were very mature at the end, so we said goodbye. Now, I will confess, I stayed an extra day in Puno looking around to see if I could bump into her. And that didn't happen, so I was rather depressed because I guess I called it wrong. And I went across the lake to Copacabana to visit the Island of the Sun and the Island of the Moon. And after my first day there, I was walking up the hill from the lake to my hostel. And who was walking down the hill but Sophia? And we embraced. And that night, her and a friend and I went out for drinks and compared notes. And I found out that she had written a book on the Norse goddesses. And I told her I had written The Secrets of the Ancient Incas, about the gods and goddesses of Peru and the Incas. And we started comparing notes on different magic schools and different magic. We had a 2-year courtship. And I think the reason I told the story, besides the fact I love the story, is that I think PachaMama was very involved in it. We both did a lot of praying on our trip to the gods and goddesses, and I think they brought us together. And after a 2-year courtship, joined me, and we got married in Virginia. And my children have visited, and they love her to death. But the point being that I didn't realize I wasn't very in touch with my feminine side until I married this liberated woman and realized I was still a 1950s kind of macho male, and I had to relearn it all again on that turn of the spiral. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm still learning. But I think it's really important that we all get in touch with our male and female side, because there we can do real powerful things. Magic, spiritual work, material world work. We use it in our businesses. I think that the feminine is rising through Machu Picchu, through many of the holy sites around the world, and it's rising in our society. We see it with the first black vice presidential candidate. We see it with Black Lives Matters, that those who haven't had a seat at the table are demanding a seat at the table, a say in the power, and everything's going to change. I think we're moving towards the golden age. Now, I know it doesn't really look like it with the virus going around and riots and anger in the city, but I think 3 to 5 years, we're going to come into a new society, a new world that's going to eclipse this one. And by 10 years, we won't even recognize it. And I think PachaMama is coming forth so powerfully now to help bring this forth, that the feminine energies are extremely important. Okay, before we run out of time, I got to bring in the Apus. So extremely important, the Apus. The Apus are the spirit beings of the mountains. In Peru, when I first started going down there back in the early 80s, early 70s, I couldn't quite grasp that every village, every region had a holy mountain or a series of holy mountains, even holy hills nearby, and that they had names for them, and that they prayed to them, that they made pilgrimages to the top to pray to the gods and goddesses. that they felt that these beings communicated with them, looked over them, protected them, brought them their streams of melting glaciers, brought them water for their crops and their lives, and for their very livelihood. They saw the streams and water as holy as well. The ancient Incas used to be much more in touch with nature than we are. One of my favorite stories is I was told by a woman in one of the isolated villages that her great-great-grandmother used to leave her children in the house when her and her husband went out to work in the forest, because the trees would watch over them, and if anything went wrong, the trees would call them. And then they'd know, and they'd rush back to help out the children. It was that kind of connectedness to nature, to PachaMama, to the Apus. Now, I've come to believe that the Apus are in all mountains. The difference is they've been prayed to for centuries in Latin America, in the Andes. In my youth, used to hike the mountains of the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And for me, those are very holy places. And I've gone back and, yeah, they're alive. Are they more alive or as alive as the Andes? I don't know. But they're alive. We live in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Some people say it's part of the Appalachian. Some people argue about that. But I've spoken to the spirits of the Blue Ridge Mountains. They're here, and they have a lot of deep, ancient wisdom to share. I've spent time in the Rocky Mountains and in the Alps and in other mountain ranges, and mountains are sensitive. We're all alive. We're all connected, and mountains are conscious. When I was first talking to Sophia, it might even have been that first night, she said to me, without having read much about Incan mythology or any of it, she said, "I've never felt mountains like this. It's like they're looking at me and trying to talk to me. They look over the trains and the buses." And that's what the Apus do. And she was sensitive enough to sense it. And I explained to her the stories of the villages and the Incas, that the Apus do that they're cognizant, they're telepathic, they're empathic. That many people speak to them on an ongoing basis. That when there's disasters, they climb to the mountaintop and offer coca leaves or corn or potatoes, and they pray. That in the ancient days, the Incas, regardless of what some of the history books say, I believe didn't do anywhere near the amount of sacrifices, human sacrifices, that the Aztecs or Mayans did. And I'm not even sure they did as much as history says, but the Incas, when the mountains were angry, when the volcanoes were erupting and wouldn't stop, they did have a human sacrifice. And it was an offering to the god of the volcano. In Arequipa, which is south of Cusco, you can go into the museum, and they have in ice 2 bodies of a man and a girl who were sacrificed on Smoky Mountain that overlooks Arequipa, that still smokes to this day. It's called Misty Mountain, I think. They're frozen and intact with all their ritual garments, but the Apus are there, and the Apus are holy, and the Apus are willing to help, and the Apus are about solace and protection and firm foundation. We're going to do an exercise that's like the one we did with PachaMama, only sort of reversed. If you'll bear with me, I think you'll enjoy it if you're feeling anything from the other. This one, we call in the Apus. You can call in the Apus of the mountains that are closest to you. You can call in the Apus of your favorite mountain, or you can call in the Apus of the Andes Mountains. I'll call in the Andes because I've got a special connection with them. So again, we relax, we breathe 3 times. Spirits of the mountains, come to us. Spirits of the mountains, be with us. Spirits of the mountains, speak to us, give us knowledge, give us strength, give us stability, give us sturdiness, give us firm foundations. This comes in first from above, for the mountains are so tall. The mountain energy, the Apu energy, comes into us through our 1,000-petaled lotus, through the top of our head. And we feel the top of our head, feeling mountain-like. We feel the top of our head not weighing us down, but getting sturdier, getting firmer, getting clear, rock clear, which is an interesting contradicting term, but it's true. If you stood on the side of a mountain on a clear day and looked and seen, I've climbed Mount Shasta in California, and the first time I went there, soon after I moved to San Francisco, I always had been allergic to bees, and I'd rushed to the hospital many times and barely saved my life because of my intense allergic reaction. I was about 2/3 of the way up the mountain, and I got bit by a bee. I had borrowed a friend's car. It was parked on the bottom, and it was too far to hike back in time for the bee allergy to set in. And I remember saying, okay, I'm going to lay down here. Someone's going to have to find my friend's car and my body. And I laid down and I prayed to Mount Shasta. And I said, Mount Shasta, if you can help me, please. I don't really want to die here. And my friend would be awful mad if I left his car here. And I felt this warm mountain energy pouring over me. And about 20 minutes later, the allergic reaction just stopped and went away. And I've been bit by bees hundreds of times since then. I tend to go where bees go. I've even been bit by killer bees in the Amazon, and I've never had any reaction. Well, the killer bee is a little reaction, but hardly any reaction at all. The Apu of Mount Shasta healed me from my allergy of bees. And Apus are this strong. We now bring the energy down into our third eye, into the middle of our head, into our brain. We have this rock-hard, healing, protective energies. This solid energy. This, from mountaintops, you can see clearly. You can see farther than you can see from a valley. The air is clear. Now we bring it down to our mouths and our throats and our hands, and you can feel the rock-solid Apu energy in us, firming us up, making us solid, healing us, protecting us, giving us strength that we don't usually have. From there, of course, it descends into our chest and our heart. And they say if you have a heart of rock, you don't love, but if you have an Apu heart of love, you love as never before, because your love is solid. Love is heartfelt. Your love is based in power and solidity. We have bears here where we live, and one time one walked by, and you could just see how it was walking. It was saying, I'm here and I'm solid. I'm here and I'm good. That's what Apus do. They're here and they're not going anywhere. So that's the energy they bring into us. And then it descends into our solar plexus. Now, to have a strong, solid solar plexus. I know this man, Vernon Howard, has written a few books. He can back you up just by putting his hand and focusing his chakra, his chi energy at you. And many martial arts masters can do this, and shamans. That if you are solid as an Apu in your solar plexus, you can move mountains, because you are a mountain. And then it goes down into our groins. So much love has been written about, has been experienced on mountains. So many love stories and poems have been written on mountains. So much love from the mountains, and they inspire so much love. And they descend into our second chakra, which is passion. They light up our passion for life. For Apus are passionate about life. They move slow because they're mountains, but they're passionate. I grew up the son of a field director, and our farm was surrounded by cemeteries. So I spent a lot of time around death, and there were granite tombstones across the street. My favorite one was Phineas Goodhue's, and it read, Stop, my friends, as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you must be. Prepare for death and follow me. And I've always believed that death floated over my left shoulder. Sophia said that was a good pickup line, but it's true. And whenever I'm not sure if I should do something or not do something, I look over my left shoulder and I say, I could be dead any minute, and I generally do it. I was once canoeing down the upper Merrimack River with two friends, recreating Thoreau's book, and one of the friends said, I hear something terrible. It's a waterfall. And he grabbed his stuff, jumped out of the canoe, and swam to shore. My other friend looked back at me and he said, well, the difference between doing something and not doing something is doing it. And the two of us paddled like hell right over that waterfall. Boom, boom. The canoe was aluminum and it dented. We had to buy it. We had rented it. And my friend and I limped for days afterwards. But boy, did I learn a lesson about taking life by the horns and living it. And that's how Apus are, the passion of life. And then the Apu energy goes into the bottom of our spine and our root chakra. Here lives the people we love and that love us. My wife is there. My children are there. My brother and sister are there. My nephew and nieces are there. My best friends are there. People that love us. And this is rock solid, mountain solid love. This is root. This is foundation. And the Apu strengthen this for us. And then the Apu energy goes down our legs, strengthens our hips, and keeps them strong as we age, and our knees, and our calves, and into our feet. And it makes a full loop with the PachaMama energy, returning into the earth and connecting deep in the earth to the lava energies that have formed many mountains. Now we pray to the Apus again. Apus, come to us, speak to us, be in us, be with us, give us a feeling, give us a message, talk to us, befriend us, give us firmness, passion, strength, and sturdiness. Now I will give you another minute and a half, and speak to the Apus, see what they have to say to you. Now thank the Apus. Tell them, if you wish, that you'll visit them again. Thank them for the message they gave you. Again, let them stay if you wish them to, if they wish to, or bid them farewell. Feel the solidness. Come back into yourself, healthier, more protected, more solid. Open your eyes and return to your room, to yourself, to us. And this is the connectedness. I'm sorry. Nope. This is the connectedness of the earth. This is the connectedness of PachaMama. This is the connectedness of the Apus. Overlooking our valley here, we have a number of trees that grow up in the ridge. Soon after we moved here, Sophia and I realized that they were a council of trees and that they changed seats in the seasons. Then in the winter, it's the evergreen trees that take the front and the predominance of the council of trees. And in the spring to fall, it's the green leaf trees. But that when we're very quiet, we can talk to these trees and they'll give us messages. They'll talk to us. Sometimes I'll be walking down to the creek to have a fire and one of them will say something. Just out of the blue. And if we stay connected to PachaMama, to the Apus, to the spirits of the forest, this can be with us all the time. This energy of earth and nature. Sophia and I have a lot of fires by the creek because we call in the elements and we do ceremonies. And I used to do those when I lived in downtown Oakland. I've done them in cities and towns all over the world. I love cities and towns, but I love the countryside a bit more. And we feel that bringing in the 4 elements, the earth, air, fire, and water, and doing a ceremony, especially with our bare feet on the ground, dancing around the fire, some people might think we're crazy if they interrupted us, but that we connect to this earth energy, to the PachaMama energy, to Sophia's pantheons of gods and goddesses, to pantheons of the Incas and the Amazons. So many gods in the Amazon. I could do weeks of classes. We're getting towards winding down. Are there questions from anyone? Okay, I'm going to do another one of these in a month. I'm going to do it on a Saturday at 10 o'clock, the 26th. I think I'm going to do it about one of the Amazon gods who protects the forest and the people of the native people of the forest, and about the ocean and moon goddess of the Incas. So by doing it at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, we might have people from Europe and Asia join in, which would be a fun addition because we seem to have a lot of them reading the Echo World on online and tuning into the YouTube channel, which is really fun to figure that we've gone international. What do I want to say in closing about PachaMama and the Apus? Well, one time I was hiking with some friends on the Inca trails. The Inca trails went all over Peru. If you scratch the surface in Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, northern Chile, northern Argentina, you find ruins and rocks and roads, rock roads. And I was hiking through the high Andes Mountains on an Inca trail that tourists don't go on because this was with a local person. It's a great thing about going down there for long periods of time. You get to know some of the people. And we were pretty far out there, and we came across a stone house. And there was a herd of llama. And the only people around, fortunately, the people I was with were native Quechuan, so they spoke Quechuan. But the only people that were around was an ancient grandmother and a grandchild. And they were sitting near the llamas, and they were weaving. And my friends talked to them, and she said, "But where is everybody?" "Oh, they had to go collect things and do things, and we stayed to watch the herd." "And what are you doing?" "I'm teaching my grandchild to weave, to knit, because it's the practice of PachaMama. We take the hair from the llamas and we knit and weave it. We card it and knit and weave it, and we make our clothes." And it was a stone house. The llamas were in a large stone enclosure, and the woman said, as we left, "May PachaMama bless you." So the spirit of the mountains, may the Apus and PachaMama bless you. The spirit of the mountains and the spirit of PachaMama and the Apus were there present through the centuries. I believe that the Inca Empire didn't just go back 500 years before the Spanish came, that it actually went back thousands of years, and it was connected with the Tiwanaku Empire, and it extended far into the Amazon, perhaps all the way over to the Atlantic. But I believe a lot of things. Some people say I have an overactive imagination, and it served me very well, so I hope I have it deep into my older years. We're winding down now. Is there any last questions? Okay. then I think we're going to call it here that may PachaMama, thank you. May PachaMama and the Apus bless you. May you revisit them when it's right for you. And use these exercises and experiment with them to make them your own, to bring other entities, gods and goddesses. So Peter and I bring in the elementals from the creek and the forest folk. And as I said, the council of trees is everything's alive and everything's connected. I guess I'll end with the story. I think I told it in my last webinar, but it's one of my all-time favorites. We're actually working with a woman who went through three weeks of solitude. No, in the darkness, no talking and no light for 3 weeks. And when she came out, we brought her out at moonlight because their eyes were so sensitive. An ancient Tibetan practice that's used by a number of psychologists and therapists today. But when she came out, she said she was so joyous to see the moonlight and to see her body again. And everything just looked more glorious, and she felt her connectedness to everything. Her name is Dr. Hanan Pacha, and she's we call her the Mystic MD. And when I was once doing ayahuasca in the Amazon, I had a very bad experience. I hadn't purged beforehand, and it was a terrible evening. And towards morning, it lifted, and it was as if the clouds had lifted. And I went out to relieve myself in the jungle, and I reached out my hand, and I couldn't tell where I stopped and the jungle began. And it was a week or two later that I realized all my life I'd been looking at it wrong. I didn't stop. The jungle didn't begin. That we are that connected, and we just generally don't perceive it. And that's what PachaMama and the Apus give us, that we are part of nature, that our souls go into the earth at night, that they spend time with us, that they love us, that they'll protect us, that they'll teach us, that they'll heal us. Blessings to all of you. I hope you enjoyed it.
You too. Thank
Anyone
you.
who has any questions, you can email me at michaelpeterlangevin.com, and I'll gladly answer your questions.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming.